Blog Talk Radio.
Conversations on the way. We're going to take a look at Catholic education, Catholic leadership, take a look really at some things happening in different parts of the world as well as here in the U.S., all centered very much on the Viatorian community. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Mitchell, and as always, glad to welcome you into our podcast series. And today, really pleased, we've got a very special guest, someone I'm looking forward to talking to. It's Father Mark Francis, who many of you know. We'll talk about his background. It's extensive and impressive, and we crossed paths many years ago. So it has been a while, but Father Mark Francis, thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thanks a lot, Jim. It's nice to be here.
You have this fascinating resume, having taught at some of the Viatorian schools at Catholic Theological Union. You've held leadership positions. You've been in Rome and Colombia, a number of different places. We want to talk about all that, but let's come forward to the current time. Tell us what you're doing right now.
Well, right now, the fall semester here, I'm a visiting professor at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. I've been asked to teach a course that I've taught for many years, a course called Liturgy and Culture. And during this course is to examine how liturgy needs to respond to the cultural context in which it's celebrated. And so I'm very glad to be here. Many of the professors here on staff were classmates in Rome. And so in a way, it's like coming home. So it's been a very pleasant semester so far.
And that's, it's so interesting because I've got some things here I want to ask you about. So I'm going to jump to this question just based on when you talk about culture. You've been at various locations in the U.S. I mentioned Rome and Bogota, Colombia. Briefly, what are your observations about the presence of the Catholic Church in different places as you've seen it over the years?
Well, the church, needs to adapt itself to its context, to where it is. And I've been blessed to be able to travel around quite a bit and to see the differences in which the church is operating. The whole idea is that in order to be effective evangelizers, in other words, to proclaim Jesus Christ, to reach out to people in a meaningful way, you have to do that by understanding their culture. You can't speak in terms that they don't understand. You can't use signs and symbols that are not part of their culture because they won't be able to relate to them. And so the church, over the years, and especially since the Second Vatican Council, has been able to adapt itself to these various cultures in order to be more effective in its work of evangelization.
And help me focus now even more on the Viatorian community itself, again, with locations in different parts of the world. Do you find that that is true as well? Although you have a mission as Viatorians, you adapt a little bit and operate a little differently in different parts of the world?
Oh, very much so. And that's part of why we were founded, why Father Curbs, our founder, founded the Viatorians, to be able to reach out, especially to young people, and in both education and also in liturgy, to reach out to them in a way that's meaningful, that opens them up to the love of Christ. And I have to say that the Viatorian community has done a good job over the years in adapting itself to the various places where we're working. And then, of course, when we invite people who are natives of each one of these places to become a Viatorian, while we all share the same charism or the same gifts that are part of the Viatorian community, they do it in a special way. They do it in a way that comes from their own culture, and they're able to share more easily the basic values that we have of God's love for everyone, and the need that we all have to combat ignorance and to help people find a happy and joyous way of life as they move forward in their own lives.
That ability to adapt and to carry forth the charism, but also welcome people of different communities and cultures. It seems to me that may be guided in part by the Provincial Council of the Viatorians, which I want to talk about. Before we talk about those specifics, can you kind of give a recap of, introduce what the Provincial Council is for those who may not be familiar with it?
Well, it's the national organizations that we have to kind of that are our governing bodies for each country. The Provincial Council, that we have four basic provinces in the world, so France, Spain, United States, Canada, and these bodies, basically 5 people in each one of the countries, helps to direct the work of the called the provinces. And the provinces then in turn have their own foundations, are called, in countries outside of their country. So in the United States, we have a foundation in Colombia, where we've been working since the 1960s, and Colombia and the Colombians have become part of the U.S. province and an important part of the province.
And a very important role of the Viatorians is education. And as we look at education today in all aspects, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of things happening. But we talk specifically about Catholic education in our community. Can you kind of give a snapshot from your point of view and the work you've done as to where you see Catholic education today in the world and its place, its value, and its challenges?
Well, Catholic education, I think, is it's part of the lifeblood of our community. It's one of those things that we're constantly concerned about. One of the things, just to give you an example, when I was much younger, and I went to St. Viator High School, this is back in the 1960s, tuition at St. Viator High School was around $350 a year. And I was able to pay for that by working and that kind of thing. Now, the tuition's much more expensive. And so one of our great challenges in Catholic education is to make this wonderful gift that we have, which is, educating the whole person for their lives through, rigorous academic disciplines and all that, but keeping in mind the values and goals of the gospel. To do all that, but to make that available to as many people as possible. We were able to do that in generations past by having the majority of the teachers in our schools were religious, were Viatorian priests and brothers, who, because of our vow of poverty, we weren't paid that much, and we were able to keep costs very low. Now, out of justice, we have most of our teachers are lay people, and so we really are forced to charge much more in order to give people a decent wage, the teachers. And so it's up to us right now to try to find ways in which we can make Catholic education available to as many people as possible. Our school in Arlington Heights is attempting to do that through reserve funds and scholarship programs and that kind of thing. But we've also embarked upon a new interesting project, and that's in collaboration with the Cristo Rey network of schools. These are schools that were basically founded by the Jesuits, and since then the Jesuits have asked other communities to join them. And we are sponsoring a Cristo Rey school right now that opened 2 years ago in Las Vegas. And that school is up in such a way that the young people, especially young people of scant resources, can get a Catholic education. And the way it's done is that we go to the business community in each one of the cities where these Cristo Rey schools are located, and ask them to give us several slots or several jobs that can be shared. One job could be shared by like 4 students. And so the students go to these jobs, whether it be in a bank or some other kind of a business, and they learn about that business. They learn about what it is to work in a bank or to work in some kind of a business situation. And then the money that they would obtain from this job would go for tuition for the school. And so that cuts the costs tremendously and enables us to offer slots to people to come to our schools, people who couldn't pay really anything. And so I'm very excited about this new development. And there are, I think something like 30-some of these Cristo Rey schools in the United States at the moment, and the list is growing. And I think it's a marvelous way of being able to provide Catholic education for kids who ordinarily would not be able to go to this quality of school, and it's quality education. The vast majority of the students who graduate from a Cristo Rey school go on to university. And so this is a chance to really change lives, and I'm very excited about it.
Well, I was going to ask you about evolution in education. I think you've already answered that for us, and I'm really enjoying the conversation with Father Mark Francis today. We've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the work you've done. You served worldwide as the Superior General for 2 terms of the Viatorian community, and then led the Catholic Theological Union for 7 years, if I remember correctly. I have my numbers correct there. But when I talk to many of your peers on these podcasts, we talk about, servant leadership. We talk about how Viatorians are called to serve. Can you kind of just briefly backtrack and tell us how you were called and how you ended up in these, significant positions of leadership? Is that specifically the call you heard and followed?
No, very much so, and I think that for myself, and I think for other Viatorians, we answered this call by being inspired by the Viatorians who taught us, the Viatorians with whom we worked when we were growing up, and we saw, at least I saw, in the priests and brother Viatorians, lives of dedication and selfless love for people that inspired me. I always wanted to, I had a feeling I wanted to be a priest, but I also wanted to be a teacher. And what I saw at St. Viator High School in Arlington Heights was precisely that combination. And that very much inspired me. As the years went on, of course, you learn more about what the community is about. And what I really have always appreciated about Viatorians is that we don't blow trumpets for ourselves. We're not constantly bragging about what we're doing, but we're quietly people behind the scenes doing God's work. And my travels as the Superior General of the Viatorians in the 15 countries where we're located, I can say that's a common adjective, a common denominator for how Viatorians operate in the world. Kind of low key, but steady and dedicated.
Well, interesting perspective provided today by Father Mark Francis, and I certainly hope we'll have the chance to talk to him again on a podcast coming up. As he mentioned, the Viatorian community proclaims Jesus Christ and his gospel and raises communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. The community is comprised of professed brothers and priests and lay associates. We didn't get to talk about that role today. I know we want to do much more of that in the future upcoming discussions. So we thank Father Mark Francis for being here. He's a member of the Viatorian Provincial Council, who are in the leadership position, as you heard, for the various areas and foundations throughout the world. So on behalf of the Viatorian community, I'm Jim Mitchell. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, St. Viator, pray for us. Adored and loved be Jesus.